All right, so you want the rich dad, poor dad secrets to, like, building wealth without reading the whole thing.
That's what we're here for.
I feel that. I mean, who's got the time, right? This is like getting straight to the good stuff, the rich dad cheat sheet, you know?
Yeah, it's more than just getting rich quick. It's like understanding these mindset shifts that Kiyosaki is always going on about.
Right. Right from the jump, he's like, two dads, right? He got his own dad educated, works hard, but, like, money's always tight.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's this friend's dad, the rich dad, and this guy's all about building wealth.
Yeah, and it's not, some rags to riches thing. It's how these two completely different approaches to money, like, shape Kiyosaki's whole view on finances.
Yeah.
Like, he's got that story, right, about being a kid and getting conflicting advice.
Oh, yeah.
Like, his dad's telling him, the love of money is the root of all evil. But then rich dad is like, no, the lack of money, that's the root of all evil.
Whoa.
Can you imagine being a kid and trying to wrap your head around that?
Seriously. Talk about mixed messages, right? Makes you think, like, where do our beliefs about money come from anyway? We don't just, like, become adults and magically have all these ideas about spending and saving, do we?
Absolutely not. We inherit so much of this stuff from, how we grew up. Like, those early messages we hear about money, they stick with us. I think that's what's so powerful about that story. It forces you to really examine, like, what do you actually believe about money?
Totally, because if you're trying to change your financial future, but you're working with these subconscious money scripts you haven't even thought about, it's like, what's a good analogy? It's like trying to build, like, a skyscraper on a foundation of sand.
Exactly. It's just not going to last.
It's going to fall over. And that leads us to, like, one of Kiyosaki's big ones, this idea of assets versus liabilities.
Huge.
This is where rich dad, poor dad gets really down to business, right?
Definitely.
He's not just, like, talking about mindset anymore. He's giving us a way to understand how money actually works.
It's all about the cash flow, Understanding where your money's going. Kiyosaki keeps it pretty simple. An asset puts money in your pocket, a liability takes it out. Straightforward.
So, like, a business that brings in passive income, that's an asset. Money's just flowing in, even when you're, like, asleep. But that new car you financed, probably a liability. You got loan payments, insurance, maintenance, all that money constantly flowing out.
Yep. And here's where Kiyosaki throws in this curveball that really gets people riled up.
Oh, yeah.
He says your house, like, especially when you're first starting out, it's often more of a liability than an asset.
Wait, but how can a house be a liability? Isn't owning a home, like, the dream? I thought that was, like, the ultimate investment.
Yeah, and that's where people get tripped up, right? It challenges everything we've always been told. Kiyosaki's point isn't that owning a house is bad. It's about, like, really looking at the financial reality of it. Think about it. When you first buy a place, you're usually dealing with this massive mortgage, property taxes, upkeep, all that. So if your income is going straight to those payments, is it really an asset putting money in your pocket? Or is it more like a liability that's, draining your bank account every month?
Okay, I get it. It's not just about owning things. It's about understanding how they impact your bottom line. He's really making you rethink the whole idea of what an asset actually is.
Exactly. And this all ties into a bigger point he makes about opportunity costs, too. When you have this big chunk of your income going towards, like, a mortgage, are you missing out on other chances to invest your money?
That's a good point. It's like he's saying, don't just assume something's an asset because, everybody says so. Really analyze it. Understand how it fits into your whole financial picture.
100%. And this is where I think understanding the difference between making money and building wealth is so important.
Let's break that down because honestly, I think a lot of people, myself included, use those terms interchangeably. Mm-hmm. They're not the same, though, are they?
Not quite.
Right. Yeah, they're totally different. Like making money is your 9 to 5, showing up and trading your time for a paycheck.
Right, exactly.
But building wealth, that's about putting your money to work for you, right? It's about generating income even when you're not, like, clocked it in.
Exactly. And that takes us to another, like, cornerstone of rich dad, poor dad, this whole idea of the rat race.
Oh, the rat race, yeah.
It's like this really vivid picture he paints of people working hard, getting their promotions, getting raises, but still feeling stuck. Oh. Like their income goes up, so what happens? Their expenses go up.
Yep.
They get a bigger house, bigger mortgage, maybe a nicer car, and they're right back where they started.
It's like living paycheck to paycheck, which, I mean, a lot of people can probably relate to that, sadly.
Yeah, and it's easy to think you're making progress, right?
Totally.
You're working hard climbing that ladder, but if you're not actively building assets...
It's just running in place.
Exactly. Yeah. And Kiyosaki even argues that this whole cycle, it's fueled by lifestyle inflation.
Ooh, yeah.
We get a raise, and suddenly we need a bigger place, a fancier car, more vacations.
More stuff, yeah.
Our expenses just expand to match our income. And are we any closer to, like, actual financial freedom?
Nope. It's like that saying, more money, more problems, right?
Yeah.
Or in this case, more money, same problems. Just like fancier furniture, maybe. So how do we break out of this rat race? Because it's like almost designed to keep us trapped.
Well, remember that whole I don't want to fix toilets excuse?
Oh, yeah. It's classic.
The toilets. It's a funny way of getting at a serious point, I think.
Okay.
It's not about literally becoming a landlord or plumber or whatever. It's about building a system that works for you.
A system. So building that asset column, right? Putting our money into things that generate income. How do we actually do that, though? What does that look like practically?
Well, Kiyosaki talks about owning businesses without having to, work in them every day. Like maybe you put money into a laundromat or a car wash, something like that, and then you hire people to manage it.
So you're leveraging your money, not just your time.
Exactly. He also talks about real estate, but he's not just saying buy any property. He's really big on finding undervalued properties, getting a good deal, and maybe even hiring a property manager to deal with all the day-to-day stuff.
So it's more nuanced than just real estate's a good investment.
Right.
It's about being strategic.
Right, and he talks about stocks, too.
Yeah, he does.
But he's not saying just pick some random stocks based on, like, what you hear on CNBC.
Right.
He's all about financial education, understanding how to analyze businesses, really get into, like, financial statements and make informed decisions.
So it's more about understanding what you're investing in, not just blindly following some hot tip.
Exactly.
In this whole minding your own business thing, it goes beyond starting a company, doesn't it? It's about taking control of your own finances, educating yourself about money.
Totally, 100%. And honestly, that's where I think a lot of people get tripped up,
Oh, yeah.
Because building wealth, it's not just about, like, understanding these concepts in your head. It's about overcoming all those mental roadblocks that we all have.
Oh, tell me about it.
Those things that really hold us back: fear, laziness, arrogance. Kiyosaki really gets into all that.
Let's start with fear, because I think fear of losing money is huge for a lot of people, myself included.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It makes sense. It's a natural human thing. Kiyosaki isn't saying you shouldn't be afraid, though.
Okay.
He's saying you can't let fear just, like, stop you in your tracks. He's got this great story. I think it's called Remember the Alamo. It's about turning that fear into motivation, almost using it as fuel to take action.
Yeah, it's like that idea that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's feeling the fear and doing it anyway.
Exactly. And then there's, like, laziness, which we often dress up as busyness.
Yeah.
We tell ourselves we're too busy to make time to learn about investing or make a budget or whatever.
Right.
But honestly, sometimes it's just easier to stay in our comfort zone, even if it's not that comfortable financially speaking.
It's like that feeling of being overwhelmed, so you just avoid it completely.
Totally.
But like ignoring your finances, that never made anyone's bank account magically get bigger, right?
Never.
So then there's arrogance. Kiyosaki calls it the biggest enemy of learning, right?
He does, yeah. Because if we think we already know it all,
you close yourself off.
You're not open to new ideas, new opportunities, and it's often those people who honestly need financial education the most, but they're the most resistant to it.
They think they've got it all figured out.
Yeah.
They're like, ignorance is bliss. When it comes to their own bank account, it's kind of scary.
Yeah, and a recipe for, like, staying stuck.
Yeah.
Which makes me think about something else Kiyosaki talks about the importance of having a financial mentor.
Oh, great.
Someone who's already doing what you want to do, right?
Okay.
They can guide you, give you advice, help you through those tough spots we all hit.
It's like having a financial Sherpa, right? Like guiding you up the mountain of wealth building.
Exactly.
But even with a mentor, you got to take action at some point. This isn't just like read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and then money magically appears in your account.
Oh, absolutely not. Kiyosaki is all about action,
Right.
He says, make offers. Don't wait for the perfect deal because guess what? It doesn't exist.
He even says something like, you make your money when you buy, not when you sell. Which, I don't know, at first that sounds kind of strange, but
yeah,
it makes sense, right? Like, be proactive. Look for those opportunities.
Be proactive and don't be afraid to negotiate.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
He wants people to get comfortable with that whole art of the deal, whether it's real estate, stocks, or even just like negotiating a raise for yourself,
Right. knowing your worth. It all comes back to, like, you are the CEO of your own financial life. You got to own it.
Totally.
And that means what? Being willing to learn constantly, like leveling up your financial knowledge.
100%. Learning never stops, especially with finances. It's always changing. You got to stay curious, keep up with the trends, be open to new info. You can't just like learn something once and then you're good, right?
Right. So I guess as we're wrapping up this Rich Dad, Poor Dad deep dive, what's like the one big takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with? That one golden nugget they can like put into practice right away?
Honestly, I think it goes back to that very first concept we talked about, really understanding that difference between an asset and a liability.
Yeah.
It's about changing your mindset from working for your money to having your money work for you,
Yeah.
making those smart choices about where you're putting your cash so it can grow and work harder.
Awesome. So analyze that spending, look for those asset building opportunities, and don't be afraid to get your hands a little dirty in the process.
Yeah.
This has been a wild ride through Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Thanks for breaking it all down for us.
Anytime. Remember, even the longest journey starts with a single step, right? So
Right.
what's that fourth step going to be for you?